Before 2026 arrives, let me ask you something real. How many goals did you abandon? Not because you failed, but because you got distracted watching someone else's life. Scrolling, comparing, explaining yourself, trying to fix people who never asked to be fixed. And suddenly, another year is gone. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't lose because they are lazy. They lose because their energy is scattered. The more you look outside for answers, the blurrier your own direction becomes. 2026 doesn't need a new version of the world. It needs a focused version of you. So today, let's bring your attention back to the one life you are responsible for, your own. The first key point is about ending the habit of auditioning for approval, because approval seeking is one of the most silent but dangerous addictions of the modern world. Most people don't even realize they are addicted to it. They don't wake up saying, "Today I will seek validation." It shows up quietly, in the way you soften your opinions, delay your goals, and second-guess decisions that already feel right in your gut. Approval seeking trains your mind to look outward before it looks inward. And every time you do that, your confidence shrinks a little. You start measuring your worth by reactions instead of principles, likes instead of alignment, applause instead of peace. Before 2026, you must understand this clearly. A life built on approval will always feel unstable because the people you are trying to impress are changing their opinions every day. Most people don't abandon their dreams because the dream was too hard. They abandon it because someone raised an eyebrow, a parent questioned it, a friend laughed it off, a stranger online dismissed it, and suddenly something that once felt alive now feels embarrassing. That's the cost of auditioning. You start rehearsing your life instead of living it. You explain yourself too early. You dilute your vision so it sounds reasonable to people who never planned to follow it. And slowly, without noticing, you begin shaping your life to fit into other people's comfort zones. The tragedy is not that people disagree with you. The tragedy is that you start agreeing with them even when your soul doesn't. Approval seeking also keeps you permanently busy but internally empty. You stay active, productive, and involved, yet deeply disconnected from yourself. Why? Because your actions are no longer guided by conviction, but by reaction. You do things to avoid judgment instead of pursuing growth. You say yes when your spirit is screaming no. You overcommit, overgive, overexplain. And then you wonder why you feel exhausted even on days when you didn't do much. That exhaustion is not physical. It's the fatigue of betraying yourself in small ways over and over again. Focus disappears when your mind is crowded with other people's expectations. There is a moment in every person's life where growth demands a quiet rebellion. Not a loud one, not an angry one, a calm, grounded refusal to keep performing. This is the moment you stop asking, "Will they approve?" and start asking, "Will I respect myself if I don't do this?" That shift changes everything. Because once self-respect enters the room, people-pleasing slowly exits. You realize that clarity feels better than applause, alignment feels better than acceptance, and peace feels better than popularity. You don't need to announce this shift. You feel it. Your decisions become firmer, your words become fewer, your posture changes, not physically but energetically. When you stop auditioning, something uncomfortable happens at first: silence, no instant feedback, no reassurance, no external confirmation that you're doing the right thing. And that silence can feel scary if you've spent your life surrounded by noise. But that silence is not emptiness, it is space. Space for intuition, space for focus, space for real thinking. This is where most people turn back. They mistake quiet for loneliness. They mistake independence for isolation. But if you can stay there long enough, you'll realize something powerful. You were never meant to be guided by the crowd. You were meant to be guided by clarity. Another hard truth is this: not everyone deserves an explanation. Some people ask questions not because they want to understand, but because they want to slow you down. They disguise doubt as concern. They call fear being realistic. And if you keep explaining yourself, you give them influence over decisions they will never live with. Focusing on yourself before 2026 means learning the strength of selective silence. You don't owe everyone a window into your mind. Some visions need time before they are shared. Some plans need protection before they need praise. As you step away from approval seeking, relationships will shift. Some people will feel uncomfortable because your compliance made them comfortable. When you stop shrinking, it forces others to confront their own stagnation. And not everyone will like that. This is where many people panic and revert back to old patterns. They confuse discomfort with wrongdoing. But growth often looks selfish to those who benefit from your self-neglect. Choosing yourself does not mean you stop caring about others. It means you stop abandoning yourself for them. The most liberating realization is this: you don't need permission to become who you already feel called to be. No panel of judges is coming. No final approval letter will arrive. Life moves when you decide to move. Focus sharpens the moment you stop outsourcing your confidence. Before 2026, let this become your inner rule. If it aligns with your values, demands your growth, and deepens your self-respect, it doesn't need applause. It only needs commitment. The second key point is understanding that your energy is far more valuable than your time. Because time only measures duration, but energy determines direction. You can have an entire day free and still feel completely drained, or you can have a packed schedule and feel deeply alive. The difference is not hours, it is where your inner strength is being invested. Most people guard their calendars but leave their emotional doors wide open. They allow stress, resentment, comparison, and unnecessary conflict to walk in freely. Before 2026, this must change. If you want focus, you must learn that energy is the fuel behind every meaningful achievement, and once it leaks, no amount of time can compensate for it. Energy leaks are subtle. They don't always announce themselves as problems. Sometimes they look like loyalty, responsibility, or being nice. You stay in conversations that mentally exhaust you because you don't want to seem rude. You engage in debates that lead nowhere because you want to prove a point. You replay moments in your head long after they have ended, arguing with people who are not even present. None of this shows up on your to-do list, yet it consumes your best mental resources. By the time you sit down to work on your goals, you feel tired without knowing why. That is not laziness. That is unprotected energy. One of the biggest drains on human energy is emotional clutter. Unresolved feelings, unspoken boundaries, and constant mental noise quietly steal your focus. When your mind is occupied with what someone said, what you should have said, or what might happen next, your attention is divided, and a divided mind cannot build a powerful future. Focus requires emotional cleanliness. It requires the courage to let go of thoughts that no longer serve you. Not every feeling needs analysis. Not every situation needs closure. Some things need distance. Some things need acceptance. And some things simply need to be released so your energy can return home. Another major drain comes from trying to control outcomes that were never in your hands. You worry about how people will react, whether they will misunderstand you, or if your efforts will be appreciated. This constant mental monitoring creates tension. It keeps your nervous system alert when it should be calm. Over time, this state becomes normal, and you forget what relaxed focus even feels like. Before 2026, you must recognize that peace is not passive, it is protected. When you stop micromanaging reactions and results, your energy becomes steady instead of scattered. And steady energy creates momentum. Protecting your energy also means being intentional about where you place your attention. Attention is the doorway through which energy flows. What you repeatedly focus on grows stronger in your mind. If your attention is glued to negativity, comparison, or chaos, your energy will mirror that state. This is why some people feel overwhelmed even when their life is objectively fine. Their attention is constantly feeding the wrong inputs. Focus on yourself means chew. Sing your mental diet carefully. What you watch, what you listen to, and what you repeatedly think about are shaping your inner world more than you realize. there is also a quiet strength in knowing when to disengage. Not everything requires a response. Not every issue deserves your emotional investment. Some situations improve the moment you step back from them. Disengagement is not avoidance, it is wisdom. It is understanding that your energy has a higher purpose than being consumed by drama, noise, and endless explanation. When you conserve your energy, you begin to notice how powerful it actually is. Your thoughts become clearer, your decisions become sharper, your presence becomes calmer, and people feel that shift, even if they don't understand it. As you learn to protect your energy, you may feel unfamiliar resistance from others and from yourself. People who are used to unlimited access to you may question the change. Your own habits may pull you back toward overthinking and overgiving. This is where focus is tested. Energy protection is not a one-time decision, it is a daily practice. Before 2026, let your standard be simple. If something consistently drains your inner strength without contributing to your growth, it does not deserve a permanent place in your life. When your energy is guarded, your focus naturally sharpens, and progress becomes less forced and more inevitable. The third key point is realizing that discipline is not punishment or restriction, but self-respect made visible through action. Most people misunderstand discipline because they associate it with pressure, force, or harsh control. In reality, discipline is a quiet agreement you make with your future self. It is the decision to show up even when emotions fluctuate and excuses feel convincing. Before 2026, you must reframe discipline in your mind. It is not about becoming rigid or joyless. It is about creating a structure that protects your goals from your moods. When self-respect rises, discipline becomes natural, not forced. Motivation is unreliable because it depends on feeling inspired. Discipline does not ask how you feel, it asks who you are committed to becoming. On the days when energy is low, when progress feels slow, and when no one is watching, discipline carries you forward. This is where most transformations are born. Not in dramatic moments, but in ordinary decisions repeated without applause. Every time you act according to your standards rather than your emotions, you strengthen your inner authority. Over time, your mind learns that your word matters. And when your mind trusts you, focus becomes easier and resistance becomes quieter. A lack of discipline often hides behind intelligence and potential. Many people know what to do, they understand the steps, they consume information, advice, and inspiration, yet nothing changes. Why? Because knowledge without discipline creates frustration. You start feeling disappointed in yourself, not because you lack ability, but because you lack follow-through. This disappointment slowly erodes confidence. Discipline repairs that damage. Each small completed promise restores trust between you and yourself. And self-trust is the foundation of any focused, successful life. Discipline also simplifies life. When standards are clear, decisions require less energy. You don't negotiate with yourself every day about whether to do what you already decided matters. You don't waste mental space arguing with your own intentions. This is where freedom is created. Contrary to popular belief, discipline does not trap you, it releases you. It frees you from chaos, indecision, and constant inner debate. Before 2026, understand this deeply. A disciplined life has fewer regrets and more clarity because actions are aligned with values, not impulses. Another important truth is that discipline grows through identity, not intensity. Extreme effort followed by burnout does not build character. Consistent, manageable actions do. Discipline strengthens when you stop trying to prove something and start trying to become something. You don't need to push harder, you need to show up regularly. This quiet consistency compounds over time. It builds confidence slowly but permanently. And unlike motivation, discipline does not disappear when life becomes uncomfortable. It adapts and continues. As discipline develops, your relationship with discomfort changes. You stop seeing discomfort as a signal to quit and start seeing it as part of the process. You realize that growth always asks for something in return: effort, patience, and persistence. Discipline teaches you to stay present during that exchange. It allows you to move forward without needing constant reassurance. This is where mental strength is formed, not by avoiding difficulty, but by learning to operate calmly within it. When you practice discipline consistently, something powerful happens internally. You stop chasing confidence and start generating it. Confidence becomes a byproduct of your actions, not a prerequisite. You trust yourself because you have evidence. You have history. You know that even on difficult days you will do what needs to be done. Before 2026, let discipline become your anchor. Not loud, not dramatic, just steady, honest, and reliable. This is how focus sharpens, identity solidifies, and long-term transformation begins. The fourth key point is understanding that silence is not weakness, avoidance, or fear, but a deliberate form of strength that most people never develop. In a world that rewards noise, constant expression, and instant reaction, silence feels uncomfortable. It feels like you are falling behind or losing relevance. But silence is where clarity sharpens. When you stop reacting immediately, you regain control over your mind. You stop letting external events dictate your inner state. Before 2026, you must recognize that every unnecessary word costs energy, and every impulsive reaction weakens focus. Silence, when chosen consciously, becomes a form of discipline and self-mastery. Most people speak not because they have something meaningful to say, but because they feel pressured to fill the space. They explain themselves excessively, defend their choices prematurely, and share plans before they are stable. This habit leaks power. The moment you announce something, you invite opinions, doubts, and comparisons that were never requested. Silence protects the fragile stage of growth. It allows ideas to mature without interference. When you learn to move quietly, you remove your life from unnecessary commentary. Focus grows when your mind is not crowded with other people's voices. Silence also strengthens emotional intelligence. When you do not immediately respond, you create a pause between stimulus and reaction. In that pause, you gain awareness. You observe your emotions instead of being controlled by them. You notice patterns in how people communicate, what triggers you, and where your energy shifts. This awareness is powerful. It allows you to respond with intention instead of impulse. Before 2026, this pause can become your greatest advantage. While others react emotionally, you respond strategically, and that difference compounds over time. Another overlooked power of silence is how it reveals truth. When you stop oversharing, people show you who they are without filters. You listen more. You notice inconsistencies. You hear what is said and what is avoided. Noise often hides reality. Silence exposes it. This clarity helps you make better decisions about where to invest your time, trust, and effort. Focus is not just about doing more, it is about choosing better. Silence gives you the information needed to choose wisely. Silence also reshapes how others perceive you. When you do not rush to justify yourself, your presence becomes grounded. Your words carry more weight because they are fewer. People sense confidence not in volume, but in restraint. You no longer chase understanding, you operate from self-assurance. This does not mean becoming distant or cold. It means being intentional. You speak when it matters, not when you feel pressured. This selective expression builds authority without force. As you embrace silence, you may feel misunderstood at times. People may project assumptions onto your quietness. They may interpret it as indifference or uncertainty. This is where inner stability matters. Silence requires courage because it asks you to be okay without immediate validation. It asks you to trust your path even when others do not fully understand it. Before 2026, this trust becomes essential. Growth often happens privately, long before it becomes visible publicly. In silence, your intuition becomes louder. When external noise fades, internal guidance strengthens. You begin to hear your own thoughts clearly. You reconnect with your values, priorities, and direction. This internal alignment is what sharpens focus. Silence is not the absence of movement, it is preparation. It is the space where intentions become firm and actions become deliberate. When you master silence, you no longer feel the need to prove, explain, or announce. You simply move with clarity, strength, and purpose. The fifth key point is realizing that you cannot outgrow the people you keep pleasing, because growth and people pleasing cannot coexist for long. One demands expansion, the other demands adjustment. When your primary goal is to keep everyone comfortable, you subconsciously limit how far you are willing to go. You soften your ambition. You delay difficult decisions. You shrink your truth so it fits into familiar spaces. This is not because you lack courage, but because you fear disruption. Before 2026, you must understand this clearly. Every level of growth introduces discomfort somewhere, and if you refuse to allow discomfort in others, you will permanently store it within yourself. People-pleasing often disguises itself as kindness, loyalty, or being responsible. You tell yourself you are being understanding, patient, or supportive, but over time this habit creates quiet resentment. You give more than you have, you compromise more than you should, and slowly you begin to feel unseen, unheard, and undervalued. Not because others are intentionally harming you, but because you never taught them where your boundaries are. Focus fades when your life becomes a series of reactions to other people's needs. Growth requires direction, and direction is impossible when your choices are driven by guilt instead of purpose. There comes a moment when personal evolution demands emotional honesty. You must admit that some relationships survive only because you keep betraying yourself. The moment you start changing, those relationships feel threatened. People who benefited from your availability may resist your independence. They may label your boundaries as selfish or your ambition as arrogance. This is where many people retreat. They mistake resistance for a sign they are doing something wrong. In reality, resistance is often a sign that you are finally doing something right. Outgrowing people does not mean disrespecting them. It means recognizing that alignment matters more than attachment. You can appreciate someone's role in your past while accepting that they cannot walk with you into your future. Focus sharpens when why. Stop trying to drag everyone along. Growth is not a group decision. It is deeply personal. And sometimes, choosing your next level requires leaving behind expectations that no longer fit who you are becoming. Another difficult truth is that pleasing others often delays your own life. You postpone goals until everyone agrees. You wait for the right time. That never arrives. You adjust your pace to match people who are not moving at all. This creates frustration, not because you are impatient, but because your inner potential feels trapped. Before 2026, you must give yourself permission to move forward without unanimous approval. Everyone needs to understand your journey. Some people only understand comfort. As you release the need to please, your identity strengthens. You begin making decisions from values instead of fear. You stop asking how your choices will be perceived. Start asking whether they are aligned. This shift is uncomfortable at first because it removes familiar validation. It replaces it with something more stable, self-respect. When you respect yourself, your focus deepens. Your energy stops leaking into explanations and apologies that were never required. Letting go of people-pleasing also clarifies your relationships. Those who truly support your growth adjust with you. They may not fully understand your path, but they respect your boundaries. Others naturally fall away. This is not loss, it is filtration. Focus requires simplicity, and simplicity often comes after difficult emotional decisions. Before 2026, understand this. You are not here to be liked by everyone. You are here to become who you are meant to be. The sixth key point is understanding that your daily routine is your real vision board. Because what you repeatedly do matters far more than what you occasionally imagine. Many people talk about dreams as if they live somewhere in the future, disconnected from today. But the truth is uncomfortable and simple. Your future is being built quietly in your ordinary habits. The way you wake up, the way you begin your mornings, the way you handle distraction, the way you end your nights. Focus is not created by inspiration, it is created by structure. Before 2026, you must stop romanticizing big change and start respecting small, repeatable actions that shape your identity without noise. Most people underestimate routine because it feels boring. There is no adrenaline in consistency, no applause for showing up again. But routine is where character is formed. It is where discipline stops being a decision and becomes automatic. When your routine is weak, your life feels unstable. You rely on motivation, mood, and circumstance. When your routine is strong, your life feels anchored. You don't ask yourself what kind of day you will have, you create it. Focus grows when your mind does not have to negotiate with chaos every morning. Predictability in your habits creates freedom in your thinking. Your routine reveals your priorities without asking for your opinion. You may say growth matters, but your daily actions tell the truth. If your mornings begin with distraction, your focus will struggle all day. If your evenings end in mental noise, your clarity will suffer tomorrow. These patterns compound silently. One distracted day means nothing. Hundreds of distracted days shape a distracted life. Before 2026, you must look honestly at what you repeat, not what you intend. Because intention without routine is fantasy. A powerful routine does not need to be extreme. It needs to be intentional. Many people fail because they try to overhaul their entire life at once. They aim for perfection and collapse under pressure. Focus does not require perfection. It requires rhythm. A rhythm you can maintain on good days and bad days. Simple actions done consistently outperform ambitious plans done occasionally. When your routine aligns with who you want to become, progress feels less like struggle and more like inevitability. Routine also protects you from decision fatigue. Every unnecessary decision drains mental energy. When you remove friction from your day, your mind becomes available for meaningful work. You stop wasting focus on trivial choices and preserve it for growth. This is why high performers simplify their lives. Not because they lack options, but because they value clarity. Before 2026, understand this deeply. Simplicity is not limitation. It is precision. Your routine shapes your self-image. Every action sends a message to your subconscious about who you are. When you consistently honor your commitments, you reinforce an identity of reliability. When you repeatedly break promises to yourself, you reinforce doubt. Over time, these messages become beliefs, and beliefs guide behavior. Focus becomes natural when your identity supports it. You don't force yourself to act. You act because it feels aligned with who you believe you are. Changing your routine is uncomfortable because it removes familiar patterns, even if those patterns are harmful. Comfort is seductive. It convinces you that tomorrow will be different without requiring change today. Routine challenges that illusion. It demands action without negotiation. Before 2026, choose routines that serve your future, not your comfort. Your life will not transform in a single moment, but it will shift permanently the day your daily actions begin matching your potential. The seventh key point is realizing that you do not need a new version of yourself, but a clearer one. Because confusion, not lack of ability, is what keeps most people stuck. Many people believe transformation requires becoming someone else entirely. They chase reinvention, new identities, new labels, and dramatic shifts. But the truth is simpler and more demanding. You already know more than you are using. You already feel the direction you need to move in. What is missing is clarity. Before 2026, your task is not to add more to your life, but to remove what is blurring your vision. Clarity begins with subtracting. Too many commitments, too many opinions, too many distractions competing for your attention. When everything matters, nothing truly does. A clear person is not someone with endless options, but someone who has decided what no longer deserves their focus. This is uncomfortable because it requires letting go of identities that once felt important. It requires admitting that some paths you invested in are no longer aligned. Focus sharpens the moment you stop carrying unnecessary weight. Lightness is not weakness, it is precision. Confusion often feels like busyness. You stay active, involved, and occupied, yet directionless. Movement without clarity creates exhaustion without progress. You wake up busy but end the day unsatisfied. This is not because you lack discipline or ambition, it is because your energy is split across too many directions. Before 2026, understand this. Clarity is not found by doing more. It is found by deciding less. When decisions are clear, action becomes effortless. A clear life is guided by principles, not impulses. When your values are defined, choices become simpler. You no longer debate every opportunity or react emotionally to every situation. You filter decisions through what truly matters. This reduces internal conflict. Focus is lost not because tasks are difficult, but because priorities are unclear. Clarity removes that friction. It creates internal alignment where your thoughts, actions, and intentions move in the same direction. Clarity also demands honesty. You must be honest about what drains you, what excites you, and what no longer fits. This honesty can be uncomfortable because it forces change, but without it, growth stalls. Many people stay confused because confusion allows them to avoid responsibility. As long as things are unclear, nothing has to be decided. But clarity is power, and power demands action. Before 2026, choose honesty over comfort. As clarity increases, your need for external validation decreases. When you know why you are doing something, you don't need constant reassurance. You trust your direction even when progress is slow. This inner certainty creates calm focus. You stop chasing every opportunity and start committing to the right ones. Distractions lose their appeal because they no longer align with your path. Clarity acts as a filter, protecting your time and energy automatically. A clear version of you is not louder or more aggressive. It is calmer, more grounded, and more intentional. You move with purpose instead of urgency. You make fewer promises but keep them. You speak less but mean more. Before 2026, aim for this version of yourself. Not a reinvented one, but a refined one. When clarity replaces confusion, focus becomes natural, decisions become confident, and progress becomes inevitable. As you prepare to step into 2026, remember this: transformation is not about becoming someone you're not. It's about removing the noise, protecting your energy, honoring your discipline, embracing silence, setting boundaries, committing to your daily actions, and gaining clarity. Every choice you make, every habit you protect, and every boundary you uphold is a vote for the life you want to live. Focus on yourself, not selfishly, but wisely. The world will continue to demand attention, opinions, and energy, but your future will reward the choices you make today. Before 2026, decide to prioritize yourself, your growth, and your vision. Let distractions fall away, let unnecessary approval fade, and let clarity guide every step. Stand firm in your routines, your principles, and your purpose. When you do, 2026 will not just be another year. It will be the year that your focus, your discipline, and your courage finally meet your potential. Build your life quietly, intentionally, and boldly. Focus on yourself, and everything else will align.